All right, and we are live again with week number, what are we? We just finished up 4 of the Release to Quacken series. So we can wait a few minutes for people to get on and we can kind of discuss how week 4 went and what we're looking forward to week 5. So while we're waiting here, people, how you guys doing?
Doing well.
Doing good.
Well. Thanks for asking.
Recovered, finally.
Feeling better then?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than trying to get training stuff in when you just don't feel good.
Well, and the bad thing is you finally get a day in where you feel like running, and then you go out a little too fast, and then you realize it about halfway through the run, and you think, oh, no, now I need to slow down, and then it's hard to come back from it.
Yeah, that happens a lot to me. I notice if I have to take like a week off, you just get so excited to get out there.
Yeah, exactly. You look down and you're like, oh, man, I'm going way too fast.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like Jeff Galloway says, in his training, you get the excitement of Run Disney when the fireworks go take off. You want to skip some of those first ones, but don't skip it, right?
Yes.
Stay on your interval if you're doing intervals.
It's like Jeff the other day. Jeff was running like a rabbit in the rain.
Well, I didn't want to get soaked. That's not normal. That's 7-minute miles, not typical for me, guys.
That hurts. 7-minute mile, that hurts.
Yeah. For about 45 minutes afterwards.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
He's like, I give it all I had, Captain.
How'd your week 4s go, guys? How's things how'd it go?
Well, I'll talk about mine real quick. I was coming back from injury, right? I screwed up my back, and that's finally feeling better. So that's a big positive for me this last couple of weeks. This past week, I was able to get in 2 5K runs and felt really good. I was telling you guys a little bit before we went live that I've been feeling a little under the weather the last 3 or 4 days. So really since Friday. So the last couple of days have been kind of just resting and trying to feel better type of thing. But I did get in some strength work. So I was at least able to do a little bit, did some core exercises and some upper body stuff. So I'm looking forward to hopefully feeling better in the next couple of days and making week 5 a good one.
What about you, Lonnie? Did you get your runs in?
Yeah, runs went well this week. I shifted up a little bit instead of the Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Just went with Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So everything went as scheduled, planned, no pain. So back still good, knee still good. So it was an uneventful training, except this is the first time I've done 5 miles in a long time, right? So
since your marathon, probably, wasn't it?
Exactly, since the marathon. So I don't have a good base, I should say, but they went well. They went well.
Good. How about you, Kevin? You're feeling better now. And
so yeah, I missed about a week of run, so I'm about a week behind. But I've been there before. It's not the end of the world. We got like Lonnie said earlier, it's a long training cycle. So I'm ready to get back on the horse. I missed my 3rd run this week. It's just so hot. It was 98 today and 97 yesterday, and I couldn't make it work with our schedule to be able to get out and run. But I did get the other 2 runs in. So hopefully, I think this week. What's the scheduled long run this week? Is it 2:45 minutes and then a 3? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So which one did I miss today or yesterday?
5.5.
5.5. So I may switch those out and try to do a 5.5 to make up for that, and just take it really slow.
Yeah, and Kevin, that's a good point though that we could probably talk about a little bit. Is if you do have to miss a run, if you want to shift things around a little bit, but we want to make sure people aren't adding like a whole week of missed runs, that mileage, because it's a long training cycle, right? Yeah. And you're gonna get there eventually. So we don't want to have you don't want to add in all 15, 20 miles that you missed to the next week.
Right.
So I think that's a good, a good discussion point, I guess.
Yeah. And then you also don't want to do, let's say you got a 10-mile run this week that you missed. You don't want to run it next week and then run a 15-mile run the next week.
Yeah. Right. You have to have that break and downtime.
Break in between is really helpful on letting your muscles rebuild and letting your body kind of reset. So don't try to push it too far too soon.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, what about you, Jeff? How was your week?
Yeah.
I'm got all 3 in again. This is a second week in a row. First 2 45-minute runs. I use a lot of those right now to just work on adjusting intervals finding out what's comfortable. Sometimes I'll push for speed a little bit, not so much right now, but I'll try to extend out my intervals a bit and see how those go, and then dial back in. My long runs, though, the 5.5, I just kind of slow and steady just to get it done. Walked a little more. It's hot.
It's
So
really
you gotta,
Yeah, it's hot everywhere right now.
Definitely take that into account too on your pace. Don't get discouraged if you're doing a really slow pace that compared to your normal runs. I mean, when it's this hot like this, just celebrate finishing the run. I mean, you don't have to try to push it too hard. I mean, you can just walk out to your car and sweat. I mean, it's just with it being that hot, and definitely be cognizant of your hydration. It's just so critical because once you're thirsty, it's too late.
Yep.
Yeah, you're not catching up from that, right? I mean, you're not recovering from that during your race or run. So yeah, that's something you want to look at days ahead of time, not you know, 2 hours into a long run. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So John, you're kind of further east than we are. So is it a dry heat up there, or
no? It's probably about the same as Jeff. I mean, it's hot and ridiculously humid right now. So yeah, it's not comfortable to even like sit out on the deck. I haven't sat out on our deck with our kids to like make s'mores even or anything lately because it's just even at night it's so sticky and hot and gross.
Yeah, you can make s'mores without the fire.
Yeah, you just hold it.
Yeah, just hold it in your hand, let it melt.
Yeah. Oh man. But hey, Alani, so you mentioned talking about like mixing up your days, right? Going Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I've always been kind of like more, I do the Galloway plan, but I like to run 4 days a week. And I go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Sunday. And then the Monday after a long run is usually super slow. But I've made those adjustments because I found out over time, like my body just needs to move that extra day, even if it's just really slow. So I think that's something that is interesting how different people do it. And it's just funny not funny, I guess, but interesting to hear you talk about how you do it and Kevin and Jeff, how you guys do it too.
Yeah.
Cause I always try to do like 5 miles 3 times a week and then a long run was kind of when I'm into it. And that's kind of my goal.
Yeah. So this will be my 4th dopey, and 5th marathon at Disney, training with the Galloway plan. And I've mixed it up just about every single time. One training cycle I would run every day of the week, and that was not good. It'll burn you out. Running back-to-back days every once in a while is okay. Just don't do it too much. The key is you don't want to go more than 20% of your miles going up the following week. So just taking it easy, but it's okay to run extra days in the week. Just don't push it too hard. I guess that's the key.
This is my 3rd training cycle for a marathon or dopey challenge of things of sorts. And it's probably coming into a worse condition than any of the other ones, but that's with me, it's just getting through the miles. And in the past, whenever I was looking at the training cycles, I would kind of not take the longer runs as much. Like I wouldn't go past 20, 23 miles whenever I was doing those. And I found out in January that I will do all of those this year because it wasn't my legs, it wasn't my lungs, it was all that extra time on my feet that I wasn't ready for that put me down. So I'll adjust my training plans a little bit here and there as we go, but I will do the full mocks when we get ready to do this in the winter.
And it's interesting. I heard I think we've referenced it a few times, but the interview Jeff Galloway did on the Rise and Run podcast talking about making sure you go those full distances for long runs, right? And how much that really helps you mentally and physically, because you're really just pushing back where you hit the wall, is kind of the story that he was telling. And I can see that. I mean, I think when I was running half marathons, if I only did 10 miles most in the training cycle, I struggled that last 5K. So to me, it's important for me. I know I have to go that distance beforehand, or I just won't.
And the mental aspect's huge. And I figured, all right, I've done 2 marathons. I can do this. I don't need that extra miles because I know what it takes to get there. But it's different.
Well, and I'll tell you too. In a training run, you may do 26, and it'll take you however many hours. I mean, it just depends on your speed and all. But I know at Disney, I slow it down a lot. And so, like you mentioned, time on your feet. I don't know that you will be able to have a training run with the amount of time on your feet you'll have for the marathon, just because there's so much walking, so much standing around. I mean, the only way you could really mimic it exactly is go stand in a parking lot for what, an hour and a half
Before you get to your runs.
walk a
Yeah.
mile and a half, stop and stand for 45 minutes, and then run for 7 hours. So
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, that's kind of what it is. But
Yeah. And I will say this, and Jeff, you made a great point because it is mental, right? It's a lot of running a marathon is the mental aspect of it. And when we first moved to Little Rock, I think this was for the 2020 marathon, new position, all the training, all that kind of stuff. I was going back and forth to home office for my actual runs. For my fake or my mock dopey, I just ran like a 3 mile, a 5, a 10, and a 15, and that was it. Right, I'm in a new city. I'm running on hills in Little Rock, and I'm like, that's it. This is all I got. But that was the year of when it was running. The marathon was like running the surface of the sun, right? So you couldn't prepare for that. I thought I was ready, and like I'm good to go. But then you get out there, and it's like, man, it is really hot. Then you're like, you know what? All right, but I took it slow and I still was able to make it. And it's funny, there are two trains of thoughts. A lot of trainers say you don't need to do a mock dopey. You can, you can just kind of, mentally where you can go. If you can get to 20 miles or whatever, you're good. Or, if you need that, none of that, do the mock dopey. I'm planning on running the Dallas Marathon in December and kind of mixing stuff up. So I'm going to be moving up my mock dopey to do that. But it's to each your own. I guess there's no set, plan for everyone. You just kind of know your body and just do what you feel best.
Yeah, I would, for somebody who's never done a marathon, if they're maybe not doing dopey but doing a marathon or even a half marathon, getting that distance in a training run at least one time, it does a lot for the mind. I mean, to know that you've been that distance before. So I'll add that. I mean, that's not necessarily required, but it helped me through my first one.
Oh yeah.
Knowing that I've been that distance before, even if you have to walk the last 5K.
Yeah.
So as we're getting to the point now, what problems did you run into here in this? Because now we're starting to ramp up miles. Some of you may have said that or seen that I put out that this is my next mental hurdle. This was the last short run of our long runs. They're all going over 10K now. So you got to start looking at carrying nutrition, carrying food. You're going hour plus on your runs. Anything that you guys are running into issue wise?
For me, the thing is I have to make sure I stretch regularly, not just on the days of running, but throughout the week. Yeah. What? Sorry.
What's stretching? Is that?
Yeah, exactly. and that's the problem, right? I'm really good about doing it after I get home from my long run or from my run that day, but I need to make sure I do it every day, like morning and night. And I've found that when I do that, I pretty much stay injury free. But when I don't is when things start to go horribly wrong for me, right? Especially, like you said, Jeff, you're ramping up those miles and you're getting up to 15, you start to get to 20, whatever miles on a weekend. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Lonnie, any issues with you other than hydration and just nutrition stuff?
No, usually I start to your point earlier, I kind of mess around with my cadence and things of that nature doing these shorter runs. Once we hit that 10 miles, I kind of start to work on, my hydration and all that kind of good stuff. And then I start to take it outside. Usually for these long runs, it's pretty cool because it gets a little cooler. I can start to run on some of these hills. That kind of helps me out a lot. But right now, it's more treadmill just because of the weather and the heat and all that kind of good stuff. So, you got water right next to you. It's kind of more comfortable of a run. So I don't have any issues now, but when it gets to those longer runs and I take it outside, that's when I kind of really start to dial in what I need to do.
I know for me, now that we're getting to some of the hour plus runs, besides taking water, making sure I'm hydrated, you'll see me talk about hydration a lot this training cycle. Do not get dehydrated. Chafing becomes a issue from the hours on. So chafing, preventative maintenance, figuring out what works for you. Everybody's a little different, but think about those because those showers aren't fun. And so figure out what you need to do to make that better. So.
And honestly, so something that's not talked about enough is male nipples, right? There's no purpose to them. But then you go on these 2-hour long runs, and man, if you don't band-aid up or figure out whatever your
Oh,
system
yeah.
is, you're going to be in pain for a while, and you may ruin your favorite running shirt. So
I came home Saturday and Carly asked why I was running with a crop top on because my medical tape came off at some point during the run, and it was getting to the point where it's quite uncomfortable for my last mile, and I was running. We're fortunate that people don't see me running much. So she was wondering why I was using a crop top. So
you should have said, because I'm sexy. No, I was just... Yeah, I cut these little pieces of KT tape, and I use that to guard, right? And it's funny, you mentioned the marathon I did, which was the Little Rock one. I had like 2 days to prepare for it. I think I ran dopey, and then I told you guys that crazy story. They called me and said, "Hey, you were deferred last year. You want to run the marathon?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, why not?" Right? But I forgot a lot of those things, so I forgot to tape up. And to your point, Carl, it was not fun. I mean, it was hot. So once the shirts start to rub, and no matter if you go to the first aid and get a Band-Aid, it doesn't stick. Then it's too late
because you're sweating too much.
Because you're sweating too much.
You got to get
literally,
it run. Yeah.
There may be some pictures of me running with my shirt out like this, me holding it. I'm just saying.
I've been there. We've all been there.
Yeah.
We've all been there. Yeah.
So what's week 5 looking like, guys? What do we got on tap for this week? Anybody have that pulled up, Andy?
Yeah, it's 2 maintenance runs with Dopey. It's the 45 minutes or 30 to 45 minutes if you're doing the goofy. And then our long run is basically the 3 miles. So it's pretty good this week.
Good recovery week.
Good recovery week.
And it's a good week to work on things too. Jeff, you mentioned earlier you work on some of the stuff during those midweek runs, and I do too. Things like cadence, your how many steps per minute you're running if you want a longer stride or if you want a shorter stride. So that's something I've been working on in mine. Is I seem to do better with a shorter stride, so I'm trying to concentrate on that now. I think it less impact, maybe, I don't know, but something about it makes my back hurt less, my knees hurt less. So that's what I've been kind of playing around with my last few runs. And what I'll keep messing with this next week or two.
Yep.
And I'll say, try to keep up with your shoes, the mileage you're putting on your shoes. Sometimes if you may start to feel it in the knees, and then you realize, wow, I've gone way over the number of miles that these shoes should have had. But almost all of the different running trackers will have a way to track that. So I encourage that and rotate them every once in a while, because even if you have the same kind of shoe, for some reason they wear a little bit different.
Yep.
They just feel a little bit different. They break in at a little bit different time. So rotate through different shoes. Find some good socks that aren't going to rub a whole lot, because blisters are bad news. Yep. So, but yeah.
That's some great points, Kevin, across the board, especially tracking your shoes. And I try to switch out or retire my shoes and get about 350 miles. I don't know about you guys when you track that, but your alternating pairs is awesome as well. And I guess as we get closer to going, we'll probably do an episode on packing and for Dopey. And it's key to have more than one pair of shoes down there, right? It's
please.
Yeah, and just to talk about that point too, I mean, you want to start thinking now about what shoes you want to wear for the marathon and start planning for that. So try out different shoes now and figure out, what you like during a long run, and then make sure as you're looking forward at the miles you're going to be putting on, really plan that out and say, okay, I'm going to buy a new pair of shoes November 1st and wear them every 3rd week or something. However you want to do that, but because you don't want them to have too many miles, but you want them to be broken in, right?
Yeah, you definitely don't want to run on a brand new pair of shoes.
No,
especially if you've never worn that make or model, I guess, if you want to call it that. Yeah. Even a different year of the same shoe name and brand can fit and wear different. So if you think that you can wear, Brooks Ghosts and you wear the 11s and train in those, and then buy a pair of 12s and say, I'm going to save these for marathon, that might not be a good idea.
No.
You definitely want to get about 20 or so miles on them, or maybe even more. Get them broke in, or you're gonna regret it.
Yeah. I try to show up with 2 pairs with about 50 miles on them.
Yeah,
right. And on each one, that's a good break-in period for me. I find it works best.
Yeah, Lonnie, my goal is the same, about 50 miles, and then making sure those shoes are good to go. Because I made the mistake 2 years ago during Toledo. I had ran in Brooks Adrenaline for a lot of my shorter training runs, but I'd never put them on for like a 10-mile run, and then wore them for the half marathon, and my feet were killing me because those shoes, for some reason, in long runs, my feet swelled up a little bit, and they were just too tight, and it wasn't comfortable. So, but they were great for a 3 to 5 mile run for me.
You
So just
swallowed
that
up
kind of
from all
stuff.
the water you drank the night before at dinner.
Yeah, well, yeah, that I may have slightly overhydrated myself for that.
That is possible. That is definitely possible.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
all right, guys. Anybody else got anything to add for this week?
Good luck out there,
No,
and,
good
and,
luck.
and take it easy and watch the heat.
yeah, and just remember, get the miles in, no matter how you do it. If it's walking, if it's running, whatever, just be out there on your feet, purposely moving forward.
Listen to your body every step.
Yep.
Well, we appreciate everybody watching and listening, and good luck with all your training and everything. And remember, forward is a pace, guys. So keep it up the good work. Have a great night, everybody.
Good job, guys.
Goodbye, everybody.